Welcome to another Guide You Outdoors video, where we guide you to an outdoor lifestyle. The Allagash Wilderness Wonderland is a magical place. It is a canoe tripping paradise that should be on any nature lover's bucket list. To travel the river alone is one thing, but the honor of going with the 80-year-old master of the Allagash, Gil Gilpatrick, raises the experience to a sublime level. Gil has traveled these waters over 100 times in his homemade cedar strip canoe. He's the author of the Allagash guidebook and a celebrity on the water. He and the river have become tied together in an interconnected relationship that bonds them like rain and light, creating a rainbow. True and convenient adventures can be hard to find. The encroaching push of civilization with its sofas and cell towers advance upon our wild places, making it more difficult to find an honest adventure. The Allagash still exists today as it did 40 years ago. Gil even remembers specific trees that have stood the test of time and hardship. Just before Round Pond lives an old, perfect V-shaped elm tree near the riverbank. Over the past 40 years, Dutch elm disease has nearly wiped out this species in New England. But here on the Allagash, this tree survives. And Gil was happy to see his old friend when we rounded the bend. Gil is frequently questioned about how the river has changed over time. He responds honestly with an old Maine woodsman accent that, well, some trees have gotten bigger, and he used to see more osprey, but now he sees more bald eagles. These are subtle echoes of how protection of a wild place will allow nature to take its true form. Old remnants of the logging days can be found throughout the waterway, especially on Eagle Lake. The Eagle Lake West Branch Railroad started around 1928 and transported 4-foot pulpwood from Eagle Lake to Umbazookskus Lake. The first thing you see as you go ashore and climb a steep bank are the rusty remnants of old railroad cars. Further along are 2 steam engine locomotives that hauled the wood. They still sit where they were abandoned 85 years ago. As I scan the woods, I can see signs of a rich industrial history where these prize trees were cut and laboriously transported to far-off mills. I can't help to notice that the machines that were the demise of the trees are now being consumed by the very things they worked so hard to kill. The new growth and these new trees are what is tearing these old metal hunks down to their last rusty bits. One thing that makes the Allagash so special is that it is wild and yet maintained with a canoe camper in mind. Rangers upkeep comfortable campsites with picnic tables, grassy areas, flat tent sites, ridgepoles for a tarp, fire pits, and even privies. Yet the rest of the waterway has been left untouched. No houses, cabins, or camps will be found on a 7-day trip. Cedars, loons, bald eagles, and the dependable old moose are the tenders of this land. When you unplug from technology on the Allagash and burden your body with the traditional exercise of paddling, camping, and cooking on a fire, your soul begins to align with its primal partner. You rise with the sun and the sparrow's songs, and retire with the buzz of mosquitoes and when the last piece of firewood has been burned. Food takes on new flavors as your sore muscles appreciate more what is replenishing them. I believe that it is this feeling, this pattern of how your pulse syncs to the cadence of the paddling, that keeps Gil coming back. Gil knows this river in a way that very few people could ever understand. But it's not just the river that keeps him back, it's the feeling that the river gives him. It's the memories it conjures. It's dependable and safe. Gil also sees each trip as a new experience. Each time we see a moose, which we see every day, he is pleasantly surprised. Gil may know what's around the next bend, but he doesn't know if there'll be a moose there. The Allagash also has some exciting whitewater. Chase Rapids should be taken seriously. So much so that the rangers have maintained a $10 portage of all your gear so that you can run the rapids in an empty boat and save the rangers from the hassle of rescuing all your gear should you capsize. But with Gil standing up in his old 20-foot canoe in the lead, clean lines can always be found, as long as you can keep up with the efficient old Maine. Beyond Chase Rapids, the current continues, but the hazards change. Now you need to keep on your toes to ensure that you find the deepest channel and are not surprised by a hidden rock. When I asked Gil how he manages to always find the deepest path, he explains that he stands up, lets his eyes relax, and then he says he can feel where the earth is tilted to one direction or the other, and he guides his boat toward that feeling. After 7 days on the water, routines are set, roles are determined, friendships have been made, and the disheartening feeling starts to creep in that you know this adventure, like all things, will have to end. When in the wilderness, one's attention is narrowed to the simple concerns of survival. But once pavement is spotted, the modern concerns begin to creep back in. I feel like water that has been easily flowing through a hose with a clear path to its destination. And then all of a sudden, the hose stops and the water starts to cascade down in all directions. I know Gil feels it too. He becomes anxious because the new takeout is unfamiliar to him, and this unfaltering, stoic man even asks a local on the riverbank watering her flowers for directions. It's the first time in the whole trip that he needs someone's help, and you can see it in his posture. Long after the boats have been loaded, showers taken, and clothes hung out to dry, the reflection begins. We then realize how the adventure has changed us. The land that remains the same changes all that pass through it, no matter if it's their first or 100th time down the river.